Welcome to the demo for links. After watching the presentation on links, you should then follow this demo so you get first-hand experience using links. So go to Google Classroom, and in the top horizontal menu, make sure you have classwork clicked so you can see all of our resources, and then click CodePen. Once you're on CodePen, you want to go to the top left and click Start Coding. Now, if your CodePen does not look like this, do not worry. In the top right, click Change View. Make sure you have the first one selected. Now, I still think this looks a little ugly, so I'm going to make our code bigger. And I'm going to click in between HTML and CSS to drag CSS and JavaScript down. So I just have my HTML. So I'm going to type this fast and explain while I'm doing it, at least this part. So if you want to pause, if you need to pause to keep up, go ahead and pause. I'm going to now add my HTML skeleton, starting with my opening and closing HTML tag. Then I'm going to add my opening and closing head tag because this is where information is stored about my website. The first information I want to store is the title, and I'm going to call it links demo, not a closing title tag. Now remember, Caret automatically adds the closing tags for you. CodePen doesn't, so that's something you have to get used to typing in CodePen. Don't worry. Then I'm going to add my meta char set equals UTF-8 so I can code in any language. After the closing head tag, I'm going to add my opening and closing body tag with the space in between, because this is where I want all the content on my website to go. First things first, add an H1 and add the text links demo so we know what this is about. Make sure you have the slash for the closing tag. Then I'm going to add one H3 opening and closing tag. I'm going to highlight that line and press Control and C at the same time to copy my text. Make sure my cursor is at the end of the line. I'm going to hit Enter and Control V. Do that twice to copy and paste 3 opening and closing header tags. If you want to type it, if you don't want to copy and paste it, that's fine too. Then I'm going to put the text external link, local link, and internal link, just so we know what we're working with in each section. So below the external link, I'm going to add a new paragraph with the words Google. Once you have that done, we're going to add an opening A tag before Google. We're going to add A, and what's the attribute we need to add to provide a source for the destination of our link? Good job, you're so smart. It's href. So add the href attribute, and right now we'll leave the value blank and close the tag. Now if you notice, this makes everything a link on our page because we never closed it. So we want to wrap the text that we want to click. So I'm going to go after Google and add a closing A tag. Now only Google is a link. When I hover over it, I can click it. So you can't just type google.com here. You cannot just type google.com. You have to go to the website you want to link to, highlight the URL in the top part. You can either right click and click copy, or just highlight it and click Control C on your keyboard. Now once you go back to your CodePen, paste the URL there, and you should be able to click this link, and it takes you to Google if you weren't on CodePen. And I hate that CodePen does this. CodePen is bad sometimes. So I'm going to refresh. Don't worry, I promise you that works. You shouldn't refresh. I'm refreshing so I can get my page back. Alright, next up, we're gonna pretend like we have 2 pages on CodePen and make a local link. I'm gonna add a paragraph. And I'm gonna add the text about me, right? Because if you're making a website, or here, we'll do about the artist. Because you're making a website about an artist. So you now have about the artist text, but you don't have a link. So maybe you'll do this, maybe you won't, but pause the video and try to add the link yourself. Alright, if you unpaused, welcome back. Follow me. We're gonna add the opening A tag with an href. And let's hypothetically say we have a page called about the author. Remember, our files can't have spaces in them, so we put dashes or underscores. I like dashes. And remember, it has to be the full file type, so .html at the end of it. Add a closing tag, or add a closing angled bracket to close the tag. If you notice, everything else is blue because we did not wrap our about the artist text and add a closing A tag. So now about the artist is a link. Don't click it because we don't have a page in CodePen called that. If yours looks like mine, you would have done this right. As long as you have an about the author file. Super important you check your spelling there, because if spelling's even a little bit off, it won't link to the page properly. Next up, let's have an internal link. Let's say we have a section at the bottom called our footer. So let's add an h4 at the bottom. Let's give it an ID. Let's set the ID equal to footer. And normally in the footer, you'll have something called quick links. So let's make it an h6. Let's make it really small. So say we have a footer at the bottom of our page that we want to click to from the top. We'd need to add an internal link that links to this ID anchor. So I'm going to add a paragraph under my internal links and add the text quick links. So say there was a ton of space in between here, right? Obviously that won't happen in the example, but say this was all the way at the bottom and you had to scroll a lot to get there. That's when you would do something like this. So I would add an opening A tag before it, href, and I would make the attribute value. You remember what symbol you'd have to use here? Hashtag or pound symbol. So I do pound symbol or hashtag footer. The hashtag only goes inside the href value. Then we have to wrap the text we want to click and add a closing A tag after quick links. So if I were to click this, hypothetically that would take me here. Take me to the bottom. But your code should look like this. Fortunately in CodePen we can't really test our links. No problem. What you should do now is take a screenshot of this and submit it with your notes to the classroom assignment. As long as your code looks like this and your page looks like that, I'll know you did it right, and you can confidently move forward with the final part of our project. Have a good one.